Legendary player in a legendary venue. We're getting to the end of the non-conference schedule, but hold up. There's still more huge basketball games to go before we start SEC play.
Week 7 features the world's greatest shoe deal, rivalry games for Missouri and South Carolina, and a trip to Madison Square Garden for Kentucky.
Plus, Tennessee wins it at the buzzer. Lamont Butler goes off against Louisville, and Auburn and Texas A&M make strong statements against the Big Ten. We'll talk about all that in the rebounds. All this and more today on the Hoops Southbound Show. If you were not ready for that weekend, Maddie, or that one Saturday really of basketball, I mean, that was a fest right there of a lot of action in this weekend, and some big games and some big moments. We're not even going to be able to get to all of them, but like we're going to talk about some of the key games and some of the big games that we watched.
Yeah, I think I may have moved from my couch a total of 5 times, and half of them was to try and adjust my old aged bunny ears to get the Tennessee game, which failed to do so. So I got a lot of highlights for that one, but
You need to
a
take that up with your
lot of
streaming
basketball.
service.
A lot of basketball, a lot of really good basketball, and then some games we kind of predicted would be a bit of a blowout.
Yeah, we'll get to that one here in just a little bit in that statement portion of it. We're going to talk about a lot of games, but yeah, a couple of games we're not going to. Alabama beat Creighton, Oklahoma beat Oklahoma State. It was a really good weekend for the SEC. Let's go through the ones that we definitely took big notes on this weekend. Let's start with Kentucky Louisville, the big rivalry of the weekend. This game lived up to being a much better clash between the two than that has in the past. But Kentucky gets the win over the Cardinals 93-85. It was a game where Kentucky led the whole way. We're just a few possessions, Wildcats were just a few possessions better than Louisville overall. This game could have gone a totally different direction if it had been in the KFC Yum Center instead of Rupp. But overall, Kentucky from start to finish won this basketball game. Maddie, some of your thoughts on the rivalry game here.
Yeah, so in our last episode, we mentioned that Louisville really needed Hepburn and Edwards to have a night for a chance to win this ball game, and both of them definitely did so to keep this game exciting. Like you said, Butler came back in a big way for Kentucky. He was definitely missed there, and everyone with over 10 minutes played was in double digits added to the scoreboard. So just an excellent game for Kentucky that, if one player hadn't shown out like they did, would this have gone another direction? Possibly so, but that's what makes rivalry games so great is everybody is usually on.
Yeah, you had that one guy step up. One guy really step up and make sure you're going to win this thing. Lamont Butler goes off for 33 points. He's perfect from the floor in this game. Outstanding. And overall, Kentucky also just shot darn well. 52.4% from three. Kentucky needed every one of those buckets, though, because as you're talking about, Lauren or Hepburn and Edwards really kept this game as close as they could. They probably needed like one more guy to really help them out to get a road win here. But, Kentucky, they get the little bit of advantages here and there. They shot just a little bit better. They did shoot, Louisville was a lower percentage from three, but Louisville hits more 3-point field goals in this game, which we said was going to be very important for them. Kentucky also got a little bit of advantage from a home whistle, not to take anything away from Kentucky, but they're at home and they, got double the trips to the foul line than what Louisville did and hit at the same percentage. And that's double the points right there in the foul trip line. Everybody gets that whistle sometimes at home. Kentucky got a little bit more, like I said, not taking anything away, just more trips. And overall, Kentucky doubled up, there, and then they had the advantage of the little things like rebounds, ball movement, points in the paint. We were talking about like points in the paint, and guy who could just go out there and get you a two, a layup, something like that. A guy who's going to be a key scorer. Chucky Hepburn was doing everything he could, but that's really one of the things that Louisville was just lacking. Their 3-point shooting was on. They just didn't have anything to keep them going through those minutes to try to get this game a little closer or take the lead or anything like that. So that's really what Louisville was missing in this game. But overall, Kentucky played very well, and Lamont Butler played dadgum out of his mind in this one. But yeah, the entire bench, Kentucky needed every point. That's how a rivalry game goes. It's a very good game. This was an entertaining game, and it's a good win for Kentucky too, because Louisville, I think Kentucky fans can confess this Louisville team is much better than what it has been the last two seasons.
Yeah, the last couple of years, definitely a turnaround, but like you said, good win for Kentucky. And then we've got another good win for the number 1 team. A dramatic finish in Champaign. Game on the line. Illinois goes 1 for 2 at the foul line to tie it up with Tennessee. Just about 5 seconds left on the clock. Chaz Lanier and Zakai Ziegler both fouled out. Jordan Gainey gets the ball, drives down the court, lets a layup on his way to the glass. Nowhere near strong enough defense from Illinois, and Tennessee walks out of Champaign with a big road win. Gainey with the buzzer beater, 66-64. Tennessee stays undefeated.
Isn't that wild? That game, I was like, man, this thing is tight. This is, I mean, the exact same reason that this game is so tight is the whole reason I was like, I think Illinois is going to win it because the home court advantage was there. You got Illinois playing a good basketball game. It looked like it shaped up well, and I was like, I was ready to go to overtime. I was like, here we go, overtime's on the way. Jordan Gainey just makes a heck of a layup and says, absolutely not. We're going to walk out of here and we're going to take this win and run with it. And that was a great game from Jordan Gainey. He had 23 points in this game, his all-time best. And then also Darlington DeBar had some contributions in the second half that were significant as well. This was a statement by Tennessee. This was a really good win to go on the road in an environment like this and walk away with the win. That is tough to do in college basketball. Really, really tough to do in college basketball. And they just, suck the air out of the building. Jordan Gainey gets all the praise because Chaz Lanier and Zakai Ziegler fouling out was not, both of them fouling out was not what we, really expected. And honestly, I think that what Jordan Gainey showed us is that he's got a role on this team that's outside of what the Tennessee three guys, Milicic, Zakai Ziegler, and Chaz Lanier, who have been the headlines so far. Jordan Gainey showed that he has a role in this team to play, and he can take over when the team really needs him. Maybe it's a sign that Tennessee's starting to come together. It's starting to click. Like all these talented players are figuring out their role on this team just in time for conference play to start. So I was really impressed with this win. It's a gutsy win, and it's like a walk-off single in baseball that they just got it, bases loaded moment, just, hit it up the 5-5 hole and walk away with the win. Like, that was impressive. That was an impressive win and a really strong performance by Jordan Gainey in this one, showing his experience off. Maddie, what were some of your other takeaways in this game?
So keeping up with this game was insane. Like I said earlier, my TV for some reason would not pick it up at all. So I just held my breath sitting there updating the score as I was watching some other game. I don't even remember which one. But I mean, like you said, you got foul trouble, you've got a couple injuries, and then an away game automatically sounds like trouble. But Tennessee pulling it out, I think, really helped their case for that number 1 spot. A lot of people were, kind of questioning that number 1 spot. I'm sure a lot of people still are. But this game definitely helps to get a big road win like that and add to that resume when Illinois has beaten some good teams so far.
Yeah. And this, like I said, Illinois looks like they're a good team. They're going to be a tournament team. They'll probably be somewhere in a top 20 seed as far as I know right now. And there's Tennessee just comes in their house, gets a massive, massive, massive W. That was, I mean, it was a good win, a really darn good win. And one, like I said, everything's kind of showing that there's more to this team than just the three guys who have been the headline so far this season. So impressive one for Tennessee. All right, we got another game that we had going on against the Big Ten. We said it was a statement opportunity for Texas A&M to go to Indianapolis and pull out a win against Purdue. Aggies did just that, beating the Boilermakers 70-66. Maddie, what were your takeaways here on this one?
Watching this game, the first half took a lot out of this A&M team. They stayed the course to keep it close, but they couldn't quite figure out how to handle Purdue's three-point machine. Second half, they played better defense and were able to stay in and win the game. Like I said, the very beginning of this game, Purdue wasn't really hitting the three ball, but then after a couple minutes, that shifted, and it was like it shocked A&M, and they couldn't stop them from the perimeter. So I think this was mainly like the battle around the perimeter for Texas A&M was trying to get that defense figured out and be able to get some stops. They were able to get some good stops along the way. Obviously, Wade Taylor having a fantastic night. And then Pharrell Payne also had a great night. He was fantastic defensively, and I think really he was the one that pushed this team to the win.
Yeah, I loved a lot of the things they were doing in the second half. They hedged a lot of screens. They really denied a lot of that zoom action that Purdue loves to run, which we said is going to be significant. But then you were talking about last week, or last episode, needing to win the glass and then needing to win the turnover bag battle. Aggies were +9 on the glass in this game, and Farrell Payne was only one rebound short of a double double. He had a huge, huge impact in this one. And then it was Phelps and Wade Taylor who matched up well with Fletcher Lawyer and Braden Smith, matching their production the best they could. Those three guys really brought it home for Texas A&M in this one. And like I said, that was A&M basketball. I mean, that was really A&M basketball. Or A&M basketball. Nothing about it was pretty, but it was everything you've come to expect about putting your work boots on and going to work style of basketball for a Buzz Williams team, and that's what took me away. The second half they just did that. Hedge screens, played hard defense, grabbed boards, forced turnovers, anything they could figure out, and you let your stars kind of getting to take over the game there. Really good win. I mean, darn good win. And Purdue's got Auburn coming up next. That's going to be another challenge for them. Like the schedule doesn't stop. But Texas A&M played a great basketball game and figured out how to hold on once they got that lead there in the second half, and they really took care of business in this one.
Yeah, so I mentioned last week also winning the turnover battle was going to be huge for A&M. Like I said, they struggled in that first half and they had more turnovers than Purdue. That second half, they forced more turnovers. They, like I said, they did better on defense. So I think, taking small things like that and initiating them a little bit sooner in the game will definitely fare well for A&M. But, like I said, it was an A&M basketball game through and through. Got to make everybody nervous.
Absolutely. I mean, it's uncomfortable, and it's like, oh man, it's just a fight. It's just a fight and coming to work. That's A&M basketball. Another big one though against the Big Ten for the SEC was Holiday Hoops given Auburn versus Ohio State. Folks, this one wasn't close, and we kind of hinted that the possibility of a blowout was sitting right there. Auburn just destroys Ohio State 91-53. Maddie, what were you thinking in this one?
Yeah, I didn't watch much of this game because after tuning in for the first few minutes, it just seemed like a lost cause and a waste of time because Auburn was absolutely dominating. I mean, at one point, one of the commentators said something along the lines of not being a high scoring basketball game, but Auburn was at like 50
The
already.
commentator said some wild things in this game, like, "Oh man, Ohio State, how many great backcourts are they going to face where you have Janai Broome and Dylan Cardwell?" And I'm like, "No point." But like they've also been getting beat by everybody else's front court while they're at it too. Like I was like, did y'all do your homework on this Ohio State team? Because they are not good inside. And like, yeah, we that was our whole talk like last time we were on here is that if Ohio State does not shoot well from three, Ohio State is going to get their butt spanked, and they 100% got their butt spanked. They couldn't hit anything. At
Mhm.
one point, we were deep in the second half. They had three threes. This is a team that has to shoot threes to be successful, because they're not matching up against Auburn's front court, man. They're completely outclassed. Jedi Broome and Dylan Cardwell are in a totally different world than them, and it was obvious from the word go. And as much as I want to be like, good win, Auburn, it was a good win. But also, Ohio State's the world's biggest mismatch if they're not shooting threes. Like, just straight up. And that's exactly what we were talking about. It's like you have to convert from outside if you're Ohio State. It was the what did I say last week? It was Auburn wins or Auburn blows out Ohio State. Those are the two options. Like there's no Ohio State wins in this one. Like that's just where I want to give some props to one player though, because like Dylan Cardwell had a great game. Janai Broome went absolutely off. Huge game for him. 26 minutes, 50% from the floor. Hits a three in this one. 20 rebounds and 21 points. It's a line they haven't seen, I believe, in 25 years in Auburn in this one. He was outstanding. And again, it goes back to the conversation we said. The interior is so bad for Ohio State. Everyone's going to lead this game after Janai Broome has one of his best games of the season. Here we are. Like goes 20 and 20. Like did no one else see this coming? Because like if you've been paying attention to Ohio State basketball, we were like, Janai Broome's about to smack somebody. Like it's gonna be a bad. And Dylan Carter, they put together like a combined 30 points in that game. if I remember correctly. Like, let's go check out the box score here real fast. I just don't have it pulled up in front of me, but I'm pretty confident out of this box score. Yeah, I'm correct. Yeah, Dylan Cardwell puts up 10 and 8. So he almost has a double-double himself. Like, it was a joke. It was an absolute joke. Like, they will face mid-major teams that are better on the interior than Ohio State is on the interior, like, this season. And, like, that's just facts. They probably, I mean, they already have. They got a few more chances here as the season goes on for a few more mid-major opportunities in Purdue as well. But this Ohio State game was going one direction if Ohio State was not shooting well. So I was not shocked by this performance at all. I was sitting there wondering if just how many points Auburn was going to put up in this one. I'm guessing that was your feeling as well.
Yeah, pretty much. I was a little shocked by the disparity so early. I figured they'd
Mhm.
have a little bit of fight out of the gate, but I don't know if Ohio State just couldn't get it going, if they just gave up before they even started the clock. I don't know what it was, but it was a massacre.
Yeah, it was not pretty, and it was not pretty, and like I said, it just kind of played out exactly how we thought. You want to talk about a massacre, though? By the way, we're recording right now during the Texas UAPB game. It's 45-8 Texas right now in that one. But let's go ahead and let's turn around scores for the rest of the SEC there on Saturday. The ones we didn't get to: Alabama beats Creighton 83-75. Florida beats Arizona State 83-66. Ole Miss goes ahead and beats Southern Miss. We didn't preview that one. The one we did say, the mid-major game that we thought was going to be really good in Tupelo, turned out to be awesome. Mississippi State beats McNeese 66-63. Good win there. And then SMU does beat LSU 74-64. Kind of, we were both teetering back and forth on that one. And then another big one, Oklahoma beats Oklahoma State 80-65 in that one. All right, let's go ahead and let's move on to the games that we got upcoming here because it's a big, big week. It all started with a guy from Wilmington, North Carolina. Now it's a brand with a movie starring Matt Damon and Ben Affleck and a big, big neutral site matchups. It's the Jumpman Invitational going down in Charlotte, North Carolina. Maddie?
Yeah, so game one between two of the biggest brands in college basketball that adorn the Jumpman logo, the Florida Gators are taking on Jordan's own alma mater, the North Carolina Tar Heels.
Yeah, team we've talked about a lot. North Carolina, good basketball team, wants to play up tempo, and of course, it's led by RJ Davis at 17.6 points per game, 1.93s per night. He's got the game high for this team as well at 30 points a game. Like, really good basketball player, wanting to see his efficiency raise a little bit if you're a North Carolina fan, but he's the leader of this team. Elliot Cadeau is a really good facilitator for this team, good defender as well. And then you got Ian Jackson and they got a really good backcourt on this North Carolina team. Their problem so far this season and why they're kind of struggling more is, besides just playing good teams and why they're 6-4 right now, because they've played some really darn good teams as well, is their front court. Vin Allen Lubin's, good. Same with, a couple of other players that they got. Tyson, they've got good front court players. Jalen Washington hasn't been bad. Drake Powell, they've got good front court players. They just aren't at the level that some of these front courts they've faced so far this season. And that's going to be tough for, that's going to still be tough for North Carolina this week when they play Florida, because you got to deal with not Vin Allen Lubin, you got to deal with Alex Condon. You got to deal with Chielu. You got to deal with Hogue. I mean, you got a lot of good guys here on this Florida team that you're going to be dealing with. That's not going to be fun if you're North Carolina.
Definitely. So another thing to point out there, North Carolina, great offensively, especially in the backcourt, like you mentioned. But when it comes to defense, is where I worry with them against this Florida team. Like you mentioned, they've got some big guys, aggressive front court. But North Carolina allows around 70, close to 79 points a game. So winning every game by less than 10 when Florida has kind of been putting the beat down on whoever they're playing against. So I think that's where they're going to have to step up their game, especially RJ Davis, try and limit Walter Clayton Jr. And then they got to do something on the interior to stop Alex Condon.
Yeah, absolutely. Alex Condon's been big. He's played great, and he can step out and shoot that three ball as well. Player that I really like, and he's just got a really high ceiling. Kid's going to have an NBA future. I'm excited to watch the future of Alex Condon unfold. He's a great basketball player. Like I said, comes from the international ranks, changed sports from playing Australian football. He's a great player, and he's going to be a force there in that front court for this game. So you're right, definitely comes down to the level of defense North Carolina is going to play in this game, because they have to play well defensively to win this game. Any kind of attraction, because Florida has the fourth best offensive rating right now in the SEC. They can score. They know how to score, and they play at a good pace too. North Carolina obviously is going to try to play even faster than that, but Florida's not going to try to slow anybody down. They've got the offensive proficiency to do that, and they get guards who can play fast as well. And the defense for Florida is sub 95 right now. Sub 95 defensive rating for this team. They're at 94.1 defensive rating. That's a really solid number, and it helps to have guys like Elijah Martin, who's a really good perimeter defender, and then other players who can make contributions as well on the defensive end. This Florida team looks like they're prepped right now to have a really good run here, coming into the season, being one of the best teams in the SEC this year, which so far has not bode well for any other conference when facing a team like that. Kim Palm's got this game 84-81, Florida at 60%. Maddie, who you got?
I mean, seeing as this is I think they have it listed as a semi-home game
In
on
Charlotte,
Temple.
North Carolina.
Oh, my bad. That was another one, I guess. Um,
It's in Charlotte, North Carolina. That's why it's a semi-home game for North Carolina.
yeah, okay. Um, the away aspect is going to be hard for Florida, but like I said, I don't think North Carolina is prepped to face this kind of defense. So I'm going to go Florida, maybe 6-ish points.
Okay, you're gonna go Florida, maybe 6 points. All right, let's see what how the whistle blows there, and Jordan's alma mater and Jordan's event. Let's see what happens with that one.
Looks
But
like
yeah,
6-ish.
I'm Gators, you're Gators. Let's go on. We got game 2 here. Porter Moser coming off a win against Oklahoma State this weekend. They take on Michigan with first-year head coach Dusty May. Maddie, this is a pretty big opportunity here for Oklahoma to kind of shake some doubt. Now, honestly, they did well in Atlantis, but it's still kind of like this team that we're all like, are they that good? Are they that good? Like, and that's what we're all asking. This Michigan team's pretty darn good. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I worry a little bit about Oklahoma with this Michigan team. Like you said, they did well in Battle for Atlantis, but everybody is playing away game with absolutely 0 fans on their side. I have a feeling you're gonna have a lot of Michigan fans in the crowd for this game, for this setup. Michigan's played some good teams. They've beaten some good teams. So I think this is one of those Oklahoma's finally having to jump back into playing a decent level of teams after Battle for Atlantis. They've played they played okay teams. They played let's see. They've beaten Alcorn, they've beaten Georgia Tech, and they beat Louisville.
I would say their best wins so far are Louisville, the Louisville win, Oklahoma State, and then they've got another good one on here, and it's Arizona. That's what it took me a minute to get there. Arizona was their other really good win, and they beat Providence as well. That Battle
Yeah.
for Atlantis run was really good for them. That was Providence, Arizona, Louisville, and then they came in and played Georgia Tech and Oklahoma State. So those are the really good wins so far. But I get where you're coming with that schedule. It's like those are good, but like Oklahoma State and Georgia Tech were not teams that we were even thinking are going to be tournament quality. Louisville, we're kind of 50-50 on, and that's where we're getting into this debate now, is how good is Arizona this year? Really? Like that's kind of the debate. That was a great win for Oklahoma, a really good win for Oklahoma. Michigan looks like a very promising team, and
Yes.
that's where this conversation can get. Can you beat another promising team, another team that looks like they're tournament quality, and one that we're
Yeah.
not worried is going to fade when it comes to conference play?
Yeah, because that's my big worry with this one. You look at Oklahoma, they went on a run in Battle for Atlantis. You've got momentum. You can build up those days. But when you're going in, I don't want to say cold because they just played Oklahoma State and got a win. But when you're going to a big event, big venue like this against a team that is very well on its way to being a tournament team, how are you going to face up against them?
Yeah, not to mention Michigan, as good as they are just coming off a heartbreaking loss to
Mhm.
Arkansas, 89-87 there in Madison Square Garden. And we're turning around now, and you're going to be facing Oklahoma, who presents a really good opportunity for you in this game. Little talk here about Michigan. Michigan we saw it all in that game. We already knew that Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden were really good. Watching that pick and roll and watching it over and over again, watching a 5-4-4-5 pick and roll between two 7-foot dudes is ridiculous. And Danny Wolf can play basketball. Like, he ain't just big. Like, he can play ball. You don't see too many 7-foot guys taking it up the court, crossing it between their legs like they're a power forward who's like normally 6'6". Like, he's got skills, and it's wild, and he knows how to win. And that's what's really crazy. I loved watching Danny Wolf at Yale last year. And then Vlad Golden's got experience here playing with Dusty May, coming from his FAU teams in the past. And he's the team leader right now in points per game. Vlad Golden is. He's putting up, 12.5 points per game. They got guys who can score. They got guys who can contribute. And then they got guys who can knock down the three just like Oklahoma does. Namari Burnett, Trey Donaldson, those guys can shoot. Roddy Gale can shoot. Like, they got some guys who can play on this Michigan team. So this, I think honestly, the 3-point shooting battle, I don't think tilts one way or the other. I think both teams are going to be knocking down threes. I'm wondering more, how does Godwin and Northweather for Oklahoma battle Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden? Your kind of thoughts, Maddie?
I don't think they can. I'll be honest.
You don't like that pairing. You don't like that pairing at
I
all.
I don't like that pairing. I didn't like it against Arkansas, but they found a way around it. They found a way to win. And I just don't feel like Oklahoma's got enough big man power on this team to stop somebody who is that big. And then defensively also, they are, I feel like, gonna wreak havoc on the Sooners a little bit. So I have a feeling it may be a tough game to watch.
They have a really good defensive rating right now, 93.2. This team knows how to play defense. Porter Moser teams know how to play defense too. They're sub 100. But when it really comes down to work to it, I think Oklahoma's offense right now is just a little bit better. But like, you got two X factors over here. You're going to need a big contribution from some of your other forwards as well. And you're probably going to need a good game from Jalen Moore. He's been consistent at 17.5 points per game. And then I'm looking also, Jeremiah Fears. He came in underclassmen here, not, gets to college early. He's playing well, and he's playing some really good ball. And it was an infusion of talent that Oklahoma really, really needed this offseason. He's right now the number 2 scorer on this team at 16.7 points per game. And he's almost at 24 points per 40 right now. He's a good player, and he's getting 28 minutes a night. If you'd like to see his 3-point shooting go up a little bit, if he gets to the paint and they can create space for him and he's getting easy twos and mid-range shots, I think that game becomes kind of tough. That might be a little bit more difficult in this game, but I've been really impressed with Jeremiah Fears, and maybe he's the X factor in this one. For how consistent he can get to the paint, how well everybody else opens up the defense and the offense and gives him an opportunity to have a huge game here. I'm looking for Jeremiah Fears, maybe, but
Maybe.
I see the Kim Palm here. 76 or 73 Michigan at 41%. Maddie, who are you going with?
I'm going Michigan's defense for the win. They've got 3 blocks per game on Oklahoma when it comes to averages, and I have a feeling those 2 7-footers are going to contribute a couple more in this one.
It's a really, really good team, and I watched some of the guys that I think is one of the best front courts when healthy in the SEC have a tough time defending that pick and roll and the gameplay there when Wolf and Golden are on the floor together. I think Michigan's a really darn good team, and I think they have a chance to be the Big Ten champion this year, first year under Dusty May. So I'm with you. I'm going Michigan. Let's see if we jinx ourselves here like we did in the Arkansas game, but I'm going Wolverines.
Unanimous vote.
Yep, unanimous vote.
And
Let's see what happens.
we do have one big rivalry game happening during the early part of the week. South Carolina, still in pursuit of a big win in the non-conference, gets a huge chance at home against the Clemson Tigers.
Yeah, let's be real here. South Carolina, they got that early season loss there to North Florida. Yes, I'm still bringing it up. It's the worst loss in the SEC right now. But they have had their opportunities against Indiana, Xavier, and just have not picked up that win yet. This one's a good chance in this game. It should be noted, though, that Clemson has also coming off a loss on this one to Memphis, and Memphis was coming off a bad loss. And they really needed to beat Clemson. So now does Clemson turn around and try to get a quality win against South Carolina, or does South Carolina turn around and pull Memphis? It's like we're trying to rebound from a bad loss. Like how's this going to play out here? A lot of moving pieces in this one, but yeah, this is a top 25 team in Clemson. Good team, really tough to deal with, and this is going to be a fun one here in the Palmetto series because like you're going to not only have a fun backcourt to watch in Clemson, you're going to have a heck of a battle in the front court between a couple of different players like Ian Shefflin and Victor Lakin, and then and a little bit of Chauncey Wiggins mixing up in there for Clemson. Zachary Davis, and Colin Murray Borles and Nick Pringle are going to have their hands full with this Clemson front court, and Clemson's a team that likes to play a little bit more out of the front court than others. So that's going to be a matchup I am thoroughly going to be entertained watching in this one. Maddie, your thoughts?
Definitely so. We've talked about this Clemson team several times. I think they may want to be a contender for the SEC at this.
It happened with Memphis last year too, where we were talking about Memphis every episode.
But yeah, I am excited to see this front court matchup. You got Colin Murray Boyles, Ian Shefflin, I think is going to be the big highlighted match for this game and kind of the one that turns the tides, figures out where this game's going to go. Obviously, Chase Hunter, huge scorer, like you mentioned, is going to have to provide a lot to keep Clemson in this game because it being a home game, a rivalry, South Carolina is going to have a lot going for them.
Yeah, South Carolina's got to play a little bit better defense. They haven't just been star-studded against some of the weaker teams that they faced so far this season. So they got to play some pretty good defense because here's one of my big takeaways. You got a team here in Clemson that's hitting about one extra three a game for them, and Clemson's got some guys who can shoot. Chase Hunter can shoot. He's a scorer from the outside. He's the team leader at 16 points a game, and he's nailing right now at about 37.7% from three and 47.3% from the field. And Chauncey Wiggins there in the front court can step out and hit a three. He's hitting right now at 39.5% and 44.2% from the floor. Between those guys, that's 3.5 threes, so they're averaging a night between them. And then you've also got Ian Shefflin, who's contributing one more a game right now from the front court, and then Dylan Hunter's hitting at 1.1. Same with Jaden Zachary at one additional three a night. So you got guys who can hit. So it's going to matter for Jamari Thomas and Jacoby Wright, how many they hit. Miles Studi as well. Like you got to have some guys hit some threes if you're South Carolina, and you got to play good perimeter defense against Clemson. So that's really part of the matchup right now is where your points coming from in comparison, because Clemson, while they're playing at a slower pace than what South Carolina will, they're going to put up plenty of points and be very efficient at it. And we saw them hang around Kentucky plenty with a poor shooting Kentucky team that night. And South Carolina does not shoot all that great from three.
Yeah, I think this is going to be one of those that the rivalry is really going to have to bring the noise.
Elevate your play. Yeah.
Yeah. So unless Clemson just has a completely off night, and I feel like sometimes the fan base can cause that, South Carolina is going to have to do a lot of work to win this basketball game.
They're hitting better. I'll be completely frank. They started out really slow, but they are hitting a little bit better from three, but like also consider the opponents that they're playing as well. So that's going to be a takeaway here. If they are shooting that 35% that they shown they're capable of hitting, that's going to be a good sign for them. If they're not capable of sustaining that against much better defense and they're hitting around 30%, I really get worried about them in this one. But this is going to be at home. This is going to be at home here for South Carolina too, and they really need a good win. So that's my two I'm putting together there. Let's go to what KenPom has in this game. KenPom has this game at 68-66, Clemson at 41%. That's in Colonial Life. They've got Clemson favored almost by 50%. Maddie, your thoughts?
I'm going to go Clemson in this one, just because they got some scorers. They got some guys who are going to be able to get it done for them. It is a rivalry game. It's one that I think could go in South Carolina's favor if they put all the right pieces together. But I feel like they're a couple pieces short to finish the puzzle.
I feel like this is must win for South Carolina. They got the home court there. I'm gonna go South Carolina, and let's see what happens. It's a must-win scenario. So, if they come out and play must-win, shoot and play the best of their ability, maybe you can springboard their season. But to me, like if they want to stick around and not have to put the entire pressure on the SEC schedule when it comes to resume building, now's the time. Now's the time, and it's against a team you hate. So this feels like 100% must-win for South Carolina, or at least actually, I'm not going to call it a must-win because you're going to have tons of quad one opportunities in the SEC. I'm going to call it a really need to win, just like I called Arkansas in the Michigan game, a really need to win. Not a must win, but a really need to win in this one. So I'm going to go South Carolina. Let's see what happens. Other games happening this week on Tuesday. Tennessee faces Western Carolina. Ole Miss gets Southern. Mississippi State faces Central Michigan. Missouri takes on Jacksonville State. Auburn plays Georgia State. LSU battles Stetson. Vanderbilt takes on the Citadel. And Alabama hits the road to play North Dakota. All right, let's go to the second half of the week coming up on the weekend here, Maddie.
Yeah, so let's go to New York once again for the SEC. It's the CBS Sports Classic this go around, and the Kentucky Wildcats face the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Yeah,
Now,
comes down to a simple question to me, Manny. Whose front court's better? Because if Ohio State doesn't hit from three, the other team if the other team has a better front court, congratulations, you're probably going to win in this one. This kind of my straight up thoughts there. I mean, honestly, Ohio State's terrible on the interior. I mean, that's really, really hurting them this year. And I would fancy to say that a little bit here, Kentucky's got some guys who can play better in the front court. Your thoughts?
yeah, kind of the same. I mean, I'm sure they were watching the tape from the Auburn Ohio State game, so Mark Pope's gonna know what to do, and he's gonna know what pieces he needs to put where. And I think Kentucky comes out and it's just the better team. Defensively, I think, not only in the interior, but also that 3-point defense is better than I think Ohio State's scoring abilities especially after watching that Auburn game. So
Especially after that.
I think it's going to be very hard for Ohio State to get the edge in this game.
I will say it's like we're just not sitting here dogging Ohio State. It's just literally we've watched this team play multiple games now. We watched them play against Texas. We watched them play against Texas A&M, and then we watched them again play. Watch them again. The other night or the other day, watching them play against Auburn, and I also watched the Maryland game. When they can't hit from three, they're done. Like that is the story on this. So it really comes up who's going to step up in your interior and who could be primed to have a big game. Like we saw what Jedi Broom did. We were sitting there going before the game, days before Jedi Broom's going to have a huge game. I'm looking at Amari Williams. I'm looking at Andrew Carr. I'm looking at Brandon Garrison. Like I'm waiting for those guys to tear Ohio State apart. Really, and like we talked about, Amari Williams isn't like the perfect fit in a Mark Pope offense, but he's a good basketball player with a lot of rim protection, and this is a game I'm just waiting for him to have his best game of the season in. Like that to me is what's going on here. So I'm waiting for those guys to step up and win this thing, or waiting for this front court to really just dominate Ohio State, because I think there's enough defensive ability, and I think the front court or the back court for Kentucky matches up well. Michi Johnson, Bruce Thornton, Devin Royal, all the other guys that they have, Ohio State has, they can shoot from deep if they get hot. I think there's enough guys on this Kentucky team to match that presence there in the backcourt and play decent enough perimeter defense to stop Ohio State's 3-point game. And the rest of the game's just on the big guys. Rest of the game's just on the big guys at that point. Maddie, any other things that you want to note on this one before we give our picks that are pretty much already in?
Yeah, I mean, not entirely. I mean, you look at these couple Ohio State's last games, the ones that they've won and won in a big statement have been teams with bad interiors as well.
Yeah.
So they're kind of matching up and being able to shoot the three ball and, make the three ball because they don't have a defense to match up against them. So I think
yeah. I was just going off of exactly what you're just throwing a secondary thought in here, or just to continue. I've just looked at KenPom real fast. The teams they've beaten, Texas, who we have said past Arthur Kaluma and past and past Shedrick, there's no depth in Texas's front court. And they ended up they rained threes in that game. And Texas was actually still beating them in the front court in that game. And they were I think they were Ohio State was under 40% in the front court. They had to hit so many threes just to beat Texas by 8. And then the other win that they got in the P6 level or in the P5 level is against Rutgers, who's extremely young. Their best players are extremely young. So like when you look at any other tough competition, Texas A&M, obviously Texas A&M with their rebounding ability and some of the guys like Farrell Payne they got, that's a good front court. Pitt, beats them in overtime 91-90. Maryland dominates them. Auburn just smacked the crud out of them. 36th in KenPom is the biggest lie this computer has told all season when it comes to Ohio State. Because Ohio State, if they can't hit a three, they are the 300th team in KenPom. Like, they're not good. Like, seriously, not a good basketball team. And if you want to watch how Kentucky, if they mess this up, it's because Ohio State shot 49% from three or 50% from three. And they played really bad perimeter defense. That's how Kentucky blows this. Like, that's the story.
Yeah, I mean, and then I think you've also got that note, like you mentioned, KenPom has them 36. I think they're going off of that history mark to
Mm-hmm.
really move them forward since KenPom likes history. And last couple of years, Ohio State's been a pretty good basketball team. I think
They've
this
been
is
decent.
they just didn't get it right.
Yeah, that turns down as the year goes on, but like that thing's eventually going to filter. And I think if Kentucky does the exact same thing that Auburn does, where they just have Amari Williams and Brandon Garrison play a really good basketball game and dominate the interior of that, put a lot of pressure and play good perimeter defense, that Ohio State's going to sink like a rock, and it's going to be very clear they're not a tournament team. Like that is coming very soon. Ohio State's got some serious problems they need to address. But for Kentucky fans, if you want a storyline in this, Aaron Bradshaw's on Ohio State, and he's in their front court. So if you're looking for anything to talk about,
All right. KenPom has this game at 82, 78, 65% going with the Wildcats. David.
Kentucky by probably 10 more, depending on how bad Ohio State shoots from three.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be quite the game that Auburn had against Ohio State, but I think they still get a pretty big statement win against Ohio
There's
State.
still a decision point with how well Kentucky shoots from three, but like it's not as linchpin as it is on Ohio State. Like, Kentucky needs to shoot well from three to be comfortable winning, but they don't have to like Ohio State. So yeah, give me Kentucky by 10 or more.
All right. Let's go to the team that we've been talking about, I feel like, this whole podcast in
In some
Auburn.
fashion.
And they are facing another top level team out of the Big Ten. The tests just keep on coming for this Tigers team. They face Purdue, another team we talked about last week, in this one. David, what are your thoughts here in this game? Feel like it's going to be a decent matchup, at least better than their previous game.
Yeah, I definitely think Auburn's going to have a bigger test than what they got against Ohio State. But yeah, let's. I don't know how like these SEC teams just somehow scheduled the same teams over and over again. We were talking about this before the week start. Like wow. Let's just give a quick rundown on Purdue. Same thing we've been saying. Braden Smith, really good basketball player. You have to shut him down from three. Same with Fletcher Lawyer. Those two are going to run it out of a ton of zoom action. It's going to be similar to facing Kentucky, but not to just a different extent. They just set up their zoom action a little bit differently. Those two are going to be the key ones to watch, and the backcourt in this game. So those are going to be tough assignments for Chad Baker-Mazara and Todd Pettiford. They're experienced players. They shoot extremely well from three, over 40%, I think is what it was last time I looked. And then the front court, I think that's going to be the advantage for Auburn here. Trey Kaufman-Wren's been really good, though. He's taken 29.1% of the shots right now for Purdue on this team. Janai Broom, Dylan Cardwell really need to lock that area in, and then Camden Heide and Miles Colvin are also going to be big contributors for this in the front court for Purdue's team. Like I said, they're going to run a ton of zoom. This is going to see a look like Auburn fans. If you want to know how, to some extent, you're going to match up with Kentucky this season, watch the way that Purdue runs their offense. It's going to be very similar in the amount of zoom action that they're going to run. They're both very, very big predicated on it. Now, Kentucky will run it a little bit different, and they'll go completely five out. But the principles in this are going to be the same. So you're looking forward to see how much that Auburn hedges screens, how effective they are in stopping the drive and quick passes to the middle and the interior to try to get something on an entry pass to the big man down low and Trey Kaufman-Renn. Caleb Furst is also going to be another name that you're going to see there in that front court as well for Purdue. Overall, though, Purdue's coming off a loss against Texas A&M. At times, they've looked really good. Defense has just been kind of an issue for them. They've given up a lot of points, and Auburn's offense has been pretty darn good to start this year, especially when you have Janai Broome going out there and going 20 for 20, in certain nights. So I like Auburn here, and just to go relatively quickly, Maddie, go ahead and give us your thoughts real fast, and then we'll get the KenPom score on this one.
Yeah, so we watched that Texas A&M Purdue game. I think their big key here for Auburn is focus on that perimeter defense. You got to knock out Braden Smith, Fletcher Loyer, make sure to keep them at bay. That was, like I said, the biggest thing that Texas A&M had issues with. But I think Auburn's backcourt is enough to keep up with them. And then you mentioned Kaufman-Renn, who actually right now shows as their leading scorer. So battle of the bigs here, Kaufman-Renn and Janai Broome. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, it will be. KenPom has this game 82-71 at 84%. Auburn, I'm telling you, I don't think that Auburn's going to win this one by 40 again, even with this game being in Birmingham. But Maddie, who are you going with in this one?
I'm taking the Tigers here. I think Boilermakers kind of starting to show a little bit of their flaws, and teams are starting to pick up on it.
Yeah, I'm going to go Auburn as well in this one. Home environment, really good opportunity here for Auburn to get a big win out of a team that should finish somewhere in the top in the Big Ten. Purdue's got some defensive issues they really need to talk about, and I think that needs to be addressed here pretty soon for them. So I'm going to go Auburn with their really good offense and then a really good presence there on both ends of, or both sides of the court. So I think the guards will match up fine. They just got to play. They got to make sure they hedge those screens. That's the biggest thing in this one.
Mississippi State has a big road test against what has been a pretty darn good Memphis team in the Forum. Away game for Mississippi State could be a very good win, but after their last battle against McNeese, I think they've got some work to do.
Yeah, McNeese is pretty good. Alabama struggled against McNeese at home. You're on neutral court environment there in Tupelo. McNeese is going to be one of the better. I think they're probably a top 10 mid-major team out there. Will Wade's definitely got that team playing. Let's see. We're never going to not mention Will Wade forever, and eventually we'll see who he ends up coaching. Wink, wink. When Penny's done there, Memphis has done well. Memphis has been a pretty good team. They got this loss. They just bounced back from the Arkansas State loss, which Arkansas State's good. Everyone was panicked about that one, and I'm over here going, Arkansas State's a pretty good team. They should win the Sun Belt, and they should do so decisively. I think that stretch of games where Alabama played Arkansas State and McNeese, which Mississippi State fans just got their taste of McNeese, and Memphis fans got their taste of Arkansas State. Those were good teams, and I kept going, everyone needs to not freak out about what Alabama's results were there, because those were very good. That Arkansas State team is loaded with former SEC players, just like this McNeese team is loaded with other guys who have played in the cross power conference level, and they got an excellent coach who coached at the power conference level. So no need to panic anywhere for either one of these games against these mid-major results. But Memphis bounces back against Clemson, winning 87-82, and they got some dudes who can play on this Memphis team, namely Tyrese Hunter. 3.2 field goals made per game. He's played really solid, and he's got a really big help in PJ Haggerty, who's putting up 21.9 points per game and a game high of 29 points a night. I've been relatively impressed with what Memphis has been able to do, especially for performance they had out there in Maui. So Memphis to me is a really good basketball team. I just think that they need to play a little bit better on the defensive end. They're giving up one too many scores at times. Their point differential right now is only 4.0, but mind you, Memphis tends to play tougher competition here in the early part of the season because they've played already. They played Missouri, UNLV out of the Mountain West. They went on the road to play San Francisco. They played UConn, Michigan State, Auburn, and then Louisiana Tech, who should be decent out of Conference USA, Arkansas State, who should win the Sun Belt, and now they just got done playing Clemson. Like their toughest part of the season is November, December, because their American play is just nowhere there. They're trying to guarantee an at-large bid. Maddie, some of your thoughts on Memphis, and then we'll talk about how they compare to Mississippi State.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the big ones. You got Tyrese Hunter. Another one that I think is going to be interesting matching up against Mississippi State is going to be Musa Cisse. I mean, he played for Ole Miss. He kind of knows the system. It's I think it's going to be a really fun matchup with Mississippi State's front court and Musa Cisse.
Yeah, that should be a really good matchup indeed. Musa Cisse, didn't play too great at times for Ole Miss last year, but he's definitely familiar with Mississippi State and the presence these guys have. They're also going to have DeJane and Jourdain as well there in the front court for Memphis. For Mississippi State, I mean, do we even need an introduction on the dude? Like, Josh Hubbard's played out of his mind. 18.7 points per game, 3.4, three-point field goals made a night. Leads the team in free throws made per game right now, and he leads in assists. He's facilitating the ball as well. But Cam Matthews has also been really, really solid for Mississippi State, and so is Keyshawn Murphy and Claude Harris. Riley Kugel, I'd like to see him put up a little bit more points production, but he's played fine. They're coming off the bench in most games. This is a pretty good Mississippi State team overall, and one that like we're just kind of like I don't know exactly how good they are, but they are good. So like you can tell that this is probably their best game so far this season outside that Pitt game. With this one being on the road, you're going to get a lot of information about just exactly who and what level Mississippi State's at. So I'm curious to watch this one and who wins this one on the 21st. Maddie, who you going with this one? KenPom's got it 79-77, Memphis at 40%.
This is a hard one. This is one that I think, if I did the flip a coin with Siri, I could go either way. But I'm going to go Memphis just because it's at home. We saw in that neutral site game, like I said, against McNeese, struggled just a little bit. I think they're going to have a little bit of a hangover game because that was such a tough game. And not to say that Mississippi State's not a good team. Like I said, I think it can go either way. I think it's just kind of the collateral damage of having a couple hard games, having an at-home game for Memphis. It's just one that I think they're going to have to take an L, and it's not going to be a bad L.
I'm going to go Mississippi State in this one. I think this is an opportunity for Mississippi State to make a statement outside of home. I think they played great in that Pitt game, and that was a really big statement to me. I want to see them do it outside of home. This is really going, and there should be some close Mississippi State fans giving a little on the road support there. It ain't far to Memphis from Mississippi. So I'm going to go Bulldogs here. Give me Hail State, and I'm giving them the win. All right. Last one to talk about, it's the Braggin Rights. Missouri takes on Illinois in the Enterprise Center in St. Louis. What color is going with the trophy this year, gold and black, or will it be blue and orange? Maddie, your thoughts here on this game?
This is going to be an interesting game. I feel like it is going to be 3 Central for Illinois just because we've seen – I feel like Mizzou's 3-point defense get them into some trouble, and I think this is going to be the game that really tests that.
It's something, right? Like Missouri's been good. They haven't been out of their minds yet. Like we saw them drop the game against Memphis on the road, and then they turn around and beat Kansas at home. That's the number one team in the country, but it was also one of those historic losing streaks where you've never seen a number one team lose back-to-back games in the first week, at least not in a long time. So, man, I'm over here just trying to pull these teams apart because Indiana's good, or Illinois is good. Illinois is a really good basketball team. They just lost by 1 to the number one team in the country at home. They went back and forth in that one. That was a tight game. And again, Illinois is going to ball screen the crud out of you in any game that you're in, and they've got some guys who can play like Marikis and Will Riley, and then you got Tomislav Ivisic, and just this combination of players that do different things. They play well in the front court. They can step out and shoot a 3, and any of them can set a ball screen at any time. So it's really this is gonna be a fight, and this is a team that's going to light you up from 3 as well, and they've got a really good offensive presence right now. We're talking about the number 30 offensive rated team in the country right now on KenPom and the 11th defensive rated team for Illinois. So it gets curious, right? It gets curious, but you've got guys like Tamar Bates on Missouri who can really chip in. Mark Mitchell's playing well, and then Anthony Robinson's been nothing but consistent as well in the front court or in the back court for Missouri. Marquise Work, same thing. In the limited minutes he's got, he's putting up 20.3 points per game per 40 right now, and 8.8 points per game. It's a small contribution, but he's playing really well. The front court's still really young for Missouri. So, Maddie, your kind of thoughts? Anything you want to add on this as well?
I think the winner of this game is going to go to who gets the most shots up, honestly. Um,
Well,
I,
Missouri's really good at that.
yeah, they definitely are. That's what I say. Like, I think it's going to be, who shoots more threes more consistently. And for these teams, I don't know who that's going to be. I can't tell you on any given night because I feel like it's gone back and forth as to if they've been hitting and if they haven't. So like I said, I think your biggest thing is to amp up that backcourt defense and try and get some stops there. Um, Especially when you got a 7-footer that can shoot from three.
Yeah.
Nobody
Uh,
can guard
I
that.
mean, and then Illinois is going to have some guys who are going to have answers as well. Yakonis has been really good. He's taken up almost 20% of the shots for Illinois, and he's on 26% of the possessions. He's on the ball somewhere for them. And then Kylan Boswell has been really good in the backcourt as well. He's really instrumental in orchestrating this offense and finding himself in a piece on it. So this is a tough one. This is more tough than I thought it was going to be, kind of coming down to it. And Kempom's got a slant here. They're going Kempom has this game 80-75, Illinois at 33%. Last time I picked against Missouri, it was in that Kansas game, and I was sitting there like, well, I expect Kansas to bounce back and have an answer after their loss to Creighton. Here we go. So,
Well,
Maddie, who you going with?
I'll split the difference with you. I think Ken Palm's right in this one. I think Illinois is going to edge out Missouri by just a hair, and I think it's only because it's in St. Louis, a little bit closer when you consider proximity.
I'm gonna go Illinois as well. I know Missouri. I like Missouri this year, and I think they're gonna do better than everyone's expecting them to do. And they just won that Kansas game, but Illinois is a team that can just ball screen you to death, and they have different ways of doing it. And I do think the front court's better for Illinois. I do think the front court right now is better. I think Missouri's a much improved front court team, but Illinois' front court's dangerous, very
Mhm.
dangerous, especially when Tomislav Ivicevic starts getting going from three. That guy gets hot, and he's got traditional center moves as well. That's going to be tough for anybody to guard against. And Will Riley, he looks like an NBA player right now. He looks like a one and done NBA player. So I'm going to go Illinois in this one. I think it'd be close. I think it'd be really close, and wouldn't surprise me if Missouri pulls this out, just because that's just the logic right now. What's going on here. All right, other weekend games on Thursday. Georgia takes on Buffalo. Texas plays New Orleans. Texas A&M plays Houston Christian. On Saturday, Florida will play North Florida. Arkansas gets North Carolina A&T. Vanderbilt will face Austin Peay. Ole Miss plays Queens. Oklahoma takes on UCA. Alabama will face Kent State. South Carolina gets Radford. LSU keeps it in state against New Orleans. And Georgia faces Charleston Southern. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching today. If you have not already, please like and subscribe to the Hoops Southbound Show. We greatly appreciate it. We're doing, like I said, we just did the whole week on this one. It's a little bit lighter week than what it has been. We've had big game after big game after big game, it feels like, but kind of winding it down as non-conference kind of chills out. I think we only got one more huge game to really mention coming in the next week, so it'll be our Christmas episode, and we'll also preview that one game that Ole Miss has, and then talk a couple of things, our thoughts here on the non-conference slate and everything else. But it's our annual Christmas episode next, so don't miss that one. Hit the notification bell or whatever YouTube wants you guys to do. But guys, please like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.
Thanks, guys. Have a great week.